From the oldest school in Southeast Asia to the war chambers of World War II, I'm bringing you guys on an adventure with me. As many of you guys may know, I took an Asian trip a couple weeks back, and I decided to document the whole story and the paranormal encounters there. So let us go together and leave the comforts of North America and go to one of the most haunted places in Asia, Penang, Malaysia. So without further ado, let's grab a blanket, turn off your lights, and come with me on an adventure of the paranormal kind. So about 2 weeks ago, I just returned from a 20-day trip around Asia. Been pretty busy lately, so I'm finally showcasing this video now. Much of my time was spent in the country of Malaysia. It was a great time overall, and even though I've been there before, the country itself always offers new experiences to me. I've traveled to many places, including the capital city of the country, Kuala Lumpur, the more rural Ipoh, and the place I spent the majority of my stay and the topic of today's video, Penang. Malaysia, along with its bordering states of Thailand and the Philippines, is known for its exotic and beautiful locations. Being a blend of cultures and languages, it's a place of acceptance. And after living there for a while, I was personally able to save money due to its low living expenses. Now, before this starts sounding like an ad for the country itself is also known infamously for its strange and paranormal phenomenon, mostly coming from the Malaysian Chinese who live in the area, alongside with its neighbors Thailand and the Philippines. Malaysia is known for its many superstitions, and much of these superstitions are not simply, not to cut your nails at night after 12 or always to finish your food. It's not those superstitions. These beliefs have to do with the ghostly activities of the country and the deep-rooted dark history of said place. Now, the road in which you saw is called the Suicide Forest of Japan. I went to Japan for this trip as well, and although it remained uneventful in the paranormal investigation spectrum, my friends and I did drive around the trees surrounding Mount Fuji, and even trek to the bottom of a famous waterfall at midnight. This is just some stock footage of that. Well, actually, the Japanese are a reason for Malaysia's dark past, and pose as an underlying element in the country's ghost stories. Now, as someone with Asian heritage, I am all too familiar with areas such as schools and sports parks being deemed Japanese torture camps of World War II. In Malaysia's area, the Japanese had occupied the country close to 3 years during World War II, and such where stories of dead Japanese soldiers at midnight had sprung up from. So the Penang War Museum, also known as Bukit or Ghost Hill, is allegedly the most haunted place in Penang. Built by the British in the 1930s, by the 1940s in World War II, the place was used as a prison base for acts of torture and other war atrocities. It wasn't until 2002 that the prison was opened to the public as a restored memorial. The museum itself wasn't too much of a trek away from the hotel that I lived in at the time, but from the main city itself, it was still a little ways away. The road driving up to the museum wasn't too bad, however, and unlike North American museums with air conditioning and a Starbucks as you would hope, this museum exceeded my expectations. It was mainly due to its exposed architecture. I guess they didn't renovate the place too much for the public. So there were a lot of mosquitoes, and there will be footage to prove that. My biggest complaint, though, was that I didn't come here at night.
Alright, so we're at the Penang Museum, allegedly one of the most haunted places in Southeast Asia. Come with me, guys.
Rumor has it that there's been sightings of an old Japanese executioner in one of the tunnels of the museum complex. What is seen here is a wall full of newspaper clippings and articles in which display the haunted occurrences that have happened here. One time, a famous TV station here in Malaysia took a sacred monk here to feel the presences of the area. Once the monk arrived in a certain area in which executions were performed, he saw a platoon of Japanese soldiers and civilians situated right there in front of him. I'm just curious. Just what did he see? Were those people kneeling down on their knees, begging mercy from the Japanese soldiers? Or were they standing there grimacing at the monk? Another tale that's in the area of the museum is an antique piano would play in the night when there was no one around. Not only that, but the scariest part of the story is that the piano was locked away inside of a room. A locked room. There was no way anyone would have been able to get to it. The piano itself was also locked and sealed. Thus, no one could play it, even the employees. So who was playing it in the middle of the night? There has also been word of a female ghost who roams the area. What we see here is the long corridor that leads to the different areas of the museum, and the many artifacts left by the Japanese soldiers during the brutal World War II.
Alright guys, so we're going into the first tunnel, of which apparently goes for ammunitions from the days in World War II when the Malays were fighting against the Japanese. But I also believe that it was used to torture people, that the Japanese used to torture people inside this tunnel, so we're gonna go check it out.
Now, what I'm about to describe is essentially the only truly paranormal encounter or sighting of this trip. Basically, as I was going through the tunnel, there was a small, tight inner passageway which didn't have any light. It was pitch black. My companion had supposedly felt a presence upon entering the tunnel. Thus, when we passed by that small, dark corridor, they had physically seen a white figure standing in the dark corridor, supposedly looking back at us. I wasn't informed of this until later, when we left the tunnel and the museum afterwards. But I was lucky I didn't go head first into that small, dark passageway. Or else, I would have made an intimate face-to-face contact to what was supposed to be a spirit. Of course, I was told that the spirit was a white aura, meaning a friendlier entity. Thus, my companion never immediately told me to leave, since it was not a malicious entity. Yet sometimes I still wonder, what if my friend was mistaken, and what they saw was indeed a bad spirit? Maybe that would explain what happened to me next. So this is where soldiers used to keep and store their ammunitions and even do gun practice. Many of the rooms and corridors of the place gave me a sick feeling to my stomach. I am not referring to a feeling of fear for the paranormal that allegedly exists in this place. The sick feeling comes from knowing of the histories and dark past of this place, mixed with the horrors of war, and knowing in these very rooms lived people with conflict, pain, fear, and sadness. Now, I do not consider myself a very spiritual person, but the dark energy surrounding the place can be felt by even the most logical person.
Alright guys, so this is probably the scariest place in this whole museum. It's called the House of Pain.
Honestly, even right now, even as I'm looking at the video footage of this, makes my stomach churn. If you know of the beating, rape, torture, and death that happened in the confines of this room, you would know it too. You would feel it too. It makes one unable to eat and want to turn away. This experience here, this place, this room, just looking at it, ended this trip for me, basically. I no longer wanted to be here at this museum. I mean, the feeling it gave me is worse than any ghost.
So here we are at the Penang Free School, the oldest school in Southeast Asia, and allegedly one of the most haunted.
The Penang Free School is located in Georgetown, Penang. It was the first established school in Malaysia. Actually, established in 1816, it is the oldest school in Malaysia and Southeast Asia. Originally an all-boys school, Penang Free School eventually started admitting female students for Form 6. Aside from its long history and having many notable Malaysian and Singaporean alumni, it is also known for its many paranormal happenings. Happenings such as flickering lights and rustling sounds occur regularly. I mean, it might be explained away due to the school's old infrastructure, but one certain incident that happens cannot be explained away due to the building's noise, like the haunting scream of a woman past midnight. Allegedly, the scream is that of an imprisoned woman during the Japanese occupation era. Of course, for an area as old as this one, it'd be rather hard for it to not have supernatural dealings. Supposedly, the school these days is still active, with students that attend school here and staff that even live in the vicinity of the area inside the gates. But anyways, since we weren't students of the facility, unlike the museum, we weren't able to venture inside the area to investigate further. But just the sight of the barred-off confines gives off a creepy feeling. Seriously, I should have come here at night. Well, maybe I'm just too scared to. Alright, so thank you guys once again for taking a look at my documentary. I hope you guys do enjoy it. And if you guys want me to go to other places in the world to do other similar documentaries, put it in the comments below or send me a link. Whatever you guys want me to go, I can think about going there and doing some documentaries on it. Even some of the most haunted places in the world. But before we end today's documentary, I have just a bit to share. Remember earlier in the documentary when I was talking about the ghost story and then my friend seeing it and then all that jazz? Well, basically, I said in the last quote there that maybe that'll explain what happened to me next. And for those of you who probably don't know why I said that, here is the reason why. And I'm going to do this in one cut, unedited. And I'm just going to tell you guys a story. So, a couple days ago, it was actually a couple days after I got back from that trip. And I just gone back home. And it was very usual, you know, just trying to get through jet lag, trying to get back to my normal life. And I had a random dream. And then, it wasn't even like in the middle of the night, it was during the daytime. It's because I had to wake up really early that morning. I had to go do something. By the time I got back home, it was about 9 a.m. in the morning. And then I had a few more hours to sleep. So I passed out, you know, for a few more hours. But moments after I had fallen asleep, and the reason I'm telling you this is because during the whole trip in Asia, I was always really afraid of sleeping by myself in hotel rooms. And I always had this paranoia. But once I got back to my own house, you know, with my whole family, I felt more relaxed and I was able to finally sleep. And it was in the morning too, and I just dozed off, you know, as I normally would. And I had a dream. And it was a dream I've never had before. You guys are looking at the screen. Take a look at this picture. And this is the reason why I'm going to use this picture. As I was in my dream, I was in the shower. I was going to the shower. And I was showering, as I normally would. Stuttering like crazy. And then I see this little girl come into my shower. And I'm like, what the heck is this? And the girl's holding on to the shower door because it's one of those like see-through shower doors and she's holding on to it. And at that moment, I feel really weak, so I essentially sit down or fall down. So I'm the same height as this girl. And then there's like a close-up of her face, and she's smiling this sinister smile. And that is like the picture you guys see on the screen right now. It was something that looked like that. And in that moment, I'd never been so terrified in my entire life. I never had a nightmare in my entire life. That was the moment where I was so scared. And in my mind, I knew I was seeing a ghost. And I woke up from my dream, from my nightmare. It was really one of the most scariest things that's ever happened to me. I know it was a dream, okay? I know it was a dream. But really, I never had a dream like that, and I don't know any way to explain it. And this, I don't know if it's related to the trip in Asia and all of this, but that moment was the scariest moment. Like, I almost had a heart attack from that dream. And I just woke up. I never had that in my life. Anyways, guys, that's just what I wanted to share. I'm getting chills even at the moment as I speak of this. But thank you guys once again for watching the documentary. If you guys want me to go to any more other places, put it in the comments. And yeah, I could probably go and explore more haunted places in the world. But that experience, I still cannot forget it. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching once again. The documentary about Penang, Malaysia.